Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Benton. It is vampires. It's a host of damned souls of telepaths.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. He can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hi everybody, this is Irene Allen from the Paranormal UK Radio Show on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And with me again tonight is my co-host Mark Johnson.
Hello.
Hello. Do you know, it always makes me laugh when you first say, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it's all kind of bubbly, isn't it?
Yeah, I put on a false bravado there.
Okay, so what's been happening, Mark? Come on.
What's been happening? Well, you know, crazy weather over here. I don't know what it's like over there.
God, you should have seen it. I'll tell you, last week it was bikini and flip-flops. Yesterday, it was like a hurricane blowing through. Air polytunnel just took off.
Huh.
Literally took off. And you're fighting 75 mile, 80 mile an hour winds trying to keep this thing down, you know? It was absolute murder, and the rain, and Mark, it was awful. And now they say that there's snow in some of the high points, and there's hail coming tomorrow, and God knows what's happening to the weather. What's it been like there? Sunny, I suppose.
Between rain yesterday and sun today, and rain tomorrow, and the sun the next day, so, you know, it's April. Pick a day.
I think we're going to have a lousy summer, don't you?
Yeah, I think we're due for a really hot summer. I think we're going to get one this year.
You're going to get a hot one. We're going to get rain.
Well, we could get that too. We've had rainy summers. Welcome to the East Coast.
Yeah. Okay, then so what's happening else?
Well, we just to let our listeners know, we have a brand new show joining the network. Starting next week. We're welcoming Bigfoot and the Bunny will be joining the Paranormal UK Radio Network as a weekly show. It'll be airing on Wednesdays, same day as us. So you have to listen to our show first, though, because we are the flagship show.
That's it.
So you listen to us first, then you can tune in to Bigfoot and the Bunny.
But what a great name for a show.
Very interesting and unique, and they do talk about everything strange and paranormal. So they cover a lot of different topics. So
anybody expecting to listen about bunnies, don't think about it.
Don't pet the bunny.
There will not be any bunnies spoken about on that show.
Or no killer rabbits. Run away! Run away! Sorry, I have to do my Monty Python.
Oh, God.
This is a British show, you know.
Huh?
This is a British show, you know.
I know. That's why you can say anything. You know, we're not censored like you lot over there.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, getting on with it, I have the ring on. Last week, people, Mark got a few funny things happening to him while I was wearing the ring. I've got the ring on again this week, and we're going to experiment to see if he gets anything happening to him. You know, if he gets touched up or anything like that. Last week you were getting sensations on your head and one thing or another, weren't you, Mark?
Yeah, and I was in a very mischievous mood.
Yeah, naughty mood.
Yep, the ring has a tendency to do that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I've just put it on my finger, and you know this ring is too big for me. As soon as it goes on my finger, it tightens right up. And now it's so tight, I'd have to use soap to get it off.
You have to tell it, okay, I'm ready to take you off now. Widen up.
Widen up?
Widen up. I don't know. Open up and loosen up.
Oh, I do hope people don't take that the wrong way.
Why not? Somebody will be offended.
Yeah. Oh, have you got anything else you want to say, Mark?
No, I think we can just go ahead and get right into the show. So for tonight, we want to welcome, we got a great guest for tonight. He is an author, psychic medium, and a paranormal investigator. He's written 2 books. His newest book, which just came out in February, is called A Knock in the Attic: True Ghost Stories and Other Spine-Chilling Paranormal Adventures. So he's also an avid motorcycle rider. So we want to welcome John Russell to the program. How are you tonight, John?
Oh, Mark and Irene, it's delightful to be here. I appreciate you having me. I'm doing well and looking forward to the show.
Oh, I love your voice.
Oh, thank you. Bless your heart.
Oh, I do. I love your voice. I love your accent.
Well, I like yours.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of ancestors from England, as I imagine a lot of people in the U.S. do, but I have a high percentage of British ancestry. And so that's a trip I hope to make someday, is to come over there and kind of reconnect with that.
Oh, great. You'll love it. You will love it.
I'm sure I will.
Whereabouts are they from?
I'm sorry?
Whereabouts are they from?
I don't know the specifics. I'd have to go look it up right now. It's just predominantly UK, and I didn't look at the specific, or don't remember the specifics, but that's something I'll have to go and look back up.
Oh, well, if you get lost and you can't find your way around, just contact me. I'll put you up.
There you go. That'll work.
Yeah, you'd love this house.
I imagine I would. It's very haunted and full of spirits.
Oh, yeah. Way. How do you know that?
Well, I might be psychic.
Ah.
There is that little thing, isn't there?
Sorry?
I go, there is that little bit there, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got 3 residents and resident ghosts.
Plus the ones that pass through once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very active house.
Yes.
Doesn't frighten me, though.
No, absolutely not, and it shouldn't.
No, it doesn't worry me at all. You know, even if I get something bad in the bedroom or something, I just tell it to go away.
Well, she uses rather different language than that. It's something that ends with the word off.
There you go.
Yeah, I had this thing, and it was breathing right in my face when I was laying in bed one night, and the smell of this thing was unbelievable.
I usually tip extra for that.
It was like 1,000 times bad breath, dead bodies all mixed in together. You know?
That's interesting.
And it was straight, and I knew it was right. His face was right up to my face. I literally knew that's where it was. Yeah. And it was, the smell was coming off of it. And I just turned around and looked. I just lay there and looked at it, and just said, "Fuck." Oh, oh, beep, beep.
I will go ahead and mute that part.
Yeah, and as soon as I do as soon as I do that, they lift. But it's my energy, you see, that I give off. I give off this energy. I'm going to pulverize it. So
right. Do you live near a cemetery, Irene?
No. Oh, go on.
Yeah.
What?
Because I was thinking that the energy that I was feeling from that was not like a deceased person, but like an elemental from around the cemetery. That's like a decayed dirt smell, and I think it was like some kind of elemental spirit that would like come from the cemetery that just wanted to try and communicate with you.
Well, let me tell you, down the road in the next village, there is a small cemetery, and the man that built this house, Herbert, is buried down there. And on the tombstone is the name of this house.
Yeah.
It's Herbert Morgan. and the name of the house. I'm not going to say it because I don't want people to know it.
Sure. No, there you go.
The name of the house is
strong connection there. And
of course, I went down there and saw him, didn't I?
Yeah.
And since then, I know I've got an elemental in here.
Yeah.
I know I've got one.
Absolutely. Well, there's the connection that makes sense then.
Well, her
it's
house
not that
also.
far away. It's a mile. It's about a mile.
Well, her house also sits on a crisscross of ley lines, and the valley she's in is also a UFO highway too. So she has lots of activity going on there.
Yeah, she's got the trifecta, so to speak.
She even occasionally in the fall will hear the Welsh Bigfoot, the Tremor.
Oh, excellent!
Howling in the hills.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So,
John, I have to ask, what kind of motorcycle do you have?
I have a Honda VTX 1300C. It's a V-twin, and I bought it brand spanking new in 2005 when we moved here to Florida. And it's like I say, it's got almost 114,000 miles on it now.
Wow. Now, I have a Kawasaki Vulcan 900, 2012. It only has 2,000 miles on it. Because with the winter
shopping on it.
Well, with the winters up here, but I haven't ridden it in a couple of years, and unfortunately, I'm going to sell it because where I live in New Jersey, the traffic is just so bad up here, and we've had so many motorcycle deaths up here. It's just not safe to ride here anymore.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
John, if I come over there, will you give me a ride on your pillion?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Anytime. The invitation's open.
Can you do the ton up there?
Oh gosh, I've done the time more times than I can tell you.
The ton.
I dropped $1.25 out on the highway one day and still had throttle left. Yeah, I know all about doing the time. You bet.
No, not time. Ton.
Oh, the ton. Yeah, same thing. We call it the time. Yeah.
100 mile an hour. That's
100 miles an hour. Yeah, we call it the time here.
Oh, it's ton here.
Yep. Yep.
Tomato.
There you go.
I'm going to go doing wheelies with John.
There you go.
There you go, Mark.
Yep, that's a mental image I'm going to need some brain soap for.
Oh, dear, this is fun.
TMI. Anyway. Well, let's get into the real fun stuff, too. Let's talk a little bit about the fact that you're a paranormal investigator, but you're also a psychic. So we'll get the standard interview questions out of the way. When did you realize you had abilities, and what kind of abilities do you have?
Okay, that triggered when I was about 5 years old. I had a, excuse me, I was asleep in my bedroom.
Pet the dog.
Yep, there's my little boy. I was asleep in my bedroom. Like I say, I was about 5 years old, and my parents had put a night light in the hallway outside of my bedroom door so I could see down the hallway if I need to get up at night. And all of a sudden, I was wide awake without any grogginess at all, and there wasn't any sound or any noise or anything that woke me. I was just suddenly wide awake. So I raised up on my elbows in bed and just kind of looked around the room, and I was like, well, what in the world is this all about? And my gaze went out the door down the hall and around the door frame in the hallway. This old black gentleman was peering around the corner at me. And I screamed bloody murder because my family was white and we didn't even know anybody black then. We certainly didn't have anyone black living with us. And my first thought was an intruder had broken into the home. So I screamed bloody murder, and when I did, he actually walked around the doorway into the hall and walked toward my bedroom door, and he was as solid as you or I. I can describe him to you. I can tell you what he wore. He had close-cropped white hair. He had a white mustache. He didn't have glasses. He wore a red plaid shirt, and he wore khaki pants and had on a black belt and black shoes. And I was just gobsmacked because, like I say, he's solid as you or I. And I screamed bloody murder again. Here my parents came running. And when my parents came running, he began to disappear. He kind of became translucent, then he became transparent, and then he vanished completely by the time my parents got there. And he had come apparently just to open the doorway, the portal to the other side, to make that connection from me to the other side, to open up that veil and allow me to begin having all these paranormal experiences and manifestations. And since that time, since the age of 5, I've had well over 1,000 physical paranormal manifestations. I mean, these are things that literally occur on the physical realm. They're not dreamed, meditated, envisioned, hallucinated, or imagined. I mean, we film them, we audio record them, we video record them, take photographs of them. Other people experience them with me. They literally occur on the physical realm. So apparently his job was just to come and open up that portal. And as far as I know, I've never seen him again. And then about the age of 6, opening up that portal also seemed to activate my psychic gift. Excuse me. And the way that manifested, the way that I became aware of that, was one day I was out in the backyard playing, and this car pulled into the driveway that I didn't recognize. And so I ran in the house, got my mom and dad, and I said, there's somebody just pulling the driveway, and I don't know who they are. And they said, okay, we'll come out and see. So they came out, and oh, those are friends of ours. So they walked down the steps, went out to the driveway to meet them, and they were standing out there talking before they went inside. So I was just kind of standing there eavesdropping, and all of a sudden I just burst into the conversation, and I said, you folks have just been on vacation. And I said, you drove that car that's there in the driveway. You took that car on vacation. That's the car you drove. And I said, you have kids, 2 kids, but they're not with you now, but you have 2 kids, and you took them with you in that car on vacation. And you went to a hotel that was painted this color and looked like this, and it had 2 stories and was kind of oblong from the front, had these trees that looked like this in the front, and then the pool area in the back looked like this. And as I'm saying this, the husband, he's kind of looking at me and looking at my father like, what in the world, kind of with a crazy grin, but it's not really blowing him his hair back as much as his wife. And she's looking at me. Her jaw is dropping more and more. Her eyes are bulging out more and more. And she's looking at me like I got cobras growing out of my forehead. Mm-hmm. And she's like, how in God's name could he possibly know this? And my parents looked at each other kind of confused. And she's, how in God's name could he possibly know this? And they're like, what are you talking about? And she said, that's what we were coming to tell you about this vacation that we just took. And we drove our car with our kids, and the hotel we stayed in was exactly like John described. How the hell could he possibly know that? What's going on? And my mother said something like, kids and their imagination. She said, it's not imagination. That's exactly what happened. How could he know that? And my father's response was, John, be quiet and go play. And I was like, yes, sir. I said, it's nice to meet you folks. And I ran off, and they stared at me like I had cobras growing out my ears. And so that was my introduction to knowing that I was psychic, that I could read people's minds. I could tell where they had been. I could predict their futures. I could know their thoughts and emotions and so on. So that was the introduction to that, and that occurred when I was about 6. And then since then, all the paranormal manifestations have stayed with me my entire life, and my psychic gift has been active my entire life. And then I started reading professionally at about the age of 18 and went on from there.
That's very interesting. And to you, it's normal, obviously.
Yeah, to me, it's absolutely normal, and I've never been scared again. I've been startled. I mean, if you're home alone, you know you're home alone, the doors are locked, and you turn around and somebody's standing there, and then they suddenly disappear.
It's like, in this house.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it startles you for a little bit, but I can truly say I've never been scared again of any experience I've had, anything I've had. And like I say, I've had well over 1,000. And my psychic gift has been something that it's all I've known all my life, and so I'm very comfortable with it. To me, it's normal living, a normal way to be, and my connection with the other side feels absolutely normal. And I told my wife the other day, I said, I wouldn't know how to live if I didn't have this. I wouldn't know how to be. I wouldn't know how to act.
Yeah. You see, it's normal to me as well, literally normal. You know, I can go shopping and see them walk past me, and they're as solid as what you're saying.
Exactly.
But I don't really talk about it very much.
Right.
You know, I talk about the odd thing here on the show, but otherwise, I just gave in to my husband. You know, I can see one, say outside my front gates or something, and I'll just come in and put the kettle on and make a cup of tea.
Right.
Is that normal?
Oh,
that
sure.
You just don't mention it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's like...
It's an everyday normal part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's normal and every day for you two. For, regular schleps like me.
Can be a little unnerving.
Well, no. Actually, no. Nothing bothers me. I've had experiences. I'm just not sensitive to the level of you guys.
Irene and I are trying to conjure something up to get you today.
Well, yeah, she's wearing the ring, so that's probably gonna help.
Nothing from it yet, Mark?
Not so far. I'm not feeling much.
Hey, come on, wake up, mate. Right. Okay. Right, so what sort of places do you investigate, John?
I do any type of investigation from, commercial buildings to private residences, plots of land, just wherever and whenever. Anything that anybody asks me to investigate or anything that I feel led to go to on my own and investigate and see what happens there and seeing what I can get from it. I've investigated the forest down here, the woods down here, like I say, commercial places, residences, abandoned buildings, all that type of thing. I've done all that type of thing in my career.
Yeah. So do you do this every week, or are you beginning to slow down now that you're getting a little bit older than 21?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, for the paranormal investigations, I'm slowing down a little bit now. I concentrate more on my writing. I still have a worldwide clientele, so I read for my clients, and that stays constant. But I focus on my writing, and I have a lot of radio and podcast interviews now and things that I do. So the investigations have slowed down a little bit. I don't do quite as much as I did when I was younger, right?
Yeah, so with your writing, do you get inspiration from anywhere?
I do. The main source of inspiration is the experiences I've had, which I credit the other side with, all my retinue that I affectionately call the guys on the other side, which I believe are my angels, my guides, deceased loved ones, and whatever entities and spirits that are there. So I'm thankful to them for that. And that's the main source of inspiration for the books. The inspiration for my first book, Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead, was all of the experiences I had that were mostly specific to my motorcycle rides over a period of a year or two. And some of the most incredible experiences that I've had paranormally, supernaturally, were involved with my motorcycle rides. And then the second book I wrote, A Knock in the Attic, is basically it's kind of a biography. It goes back to that experience that opened the portal to the other side and comes on up through my young adult years into my adulthood, on up into the present time, and talks about all the paranormal experiences along the way, what I learned from those. And so that's the main source of the inspiration for my writings. And then I'm actually working on a third book, and this one's going to be titled 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. And the inspiration for that was actually, there was a book a long time ago written by an author named David St. Clair. And he traveled the world. Yeah, David St. Clair. And he traveled the world investigating paranormal experiences, talking with psychics and mediums all over. And he kind of codified things into a book of this works, this doesn't, this is real simple and easy to learn and do, and here's how you do it. And so my book is kind of an homage to his. He had step-by-step instructions in every chapter about how to do certain things spiritually. And so this book is an homage to that. It's not a knockoff of it, because mine covers things that he really didn't, and goes into a little more detail as well. And these are all things that I've learned on my own, that the other side has taught me, or that I've learned through study and practice. And each chapter will be different, and it'll introduce a subject, tell you what the subject is, tell you how to learn it, how to practice it, and then what the real-world application of that is. So that'll be coming out hopefully around the end of this year, first part of next year.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Irene is an author herself, too.
Sorry?
I said Irene is an author as well.
Excellent.
She is.
Yeah, but with me, I get all my inspiration, don't I? You know, if I get a brain block, I just say, tell me what to bloody do next. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Well, she's actually written, and here we're going to do our shameless plugs. She's written 2 novels and her autobiography, My Life Among the Spirits.
Excellent.
Yes, and another one coming out in June.
Oh, good.
Operation Paris. Everybody's coming out in June.
A Psychic Spy, Operation Paris, which is the sequel to A Psychic Spy Recruited.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
Yep. And then
the other ones. What's the others called, Mark?
Well, the other one, your autobiography, My Life Among the Spirits, and then...
He knows I don't.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I know, because I was her editor and publisher. And then the horror book we did, the fictional book, Where Demons Dwell.
Oh, excellent.
That was in the... that's about a cult from over 100 years ago in the south of Italy.
Oh, wonderful. I love horror.
Yeah,
this one...
I'll have to check all those out.
Well, this one was really interesting because we based a lot of it on Irene's own experiences visiting the Amalfitana coast. So a lot of the area around there, her descriptions are based off of where she used to visit, and a lot of the history there.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's me. That's me plugged. Okay, carry on. What I was going to say was, did you ever go to, what are they called, these places where people learn to become a medium? Did you ever go to a spiritualist church or anything like that?
I didn't. I met some spiritualists back when I was young. We actually had some rather well-known spiritualist mediums come over from the UK to my hometown, and I met and just studied with them briefly while they were there. Most everything I learned on my own. The other side taught me directly, or I pursued every avenue of study available to me. I read everything I could get my hands on religion, spirituality, psychology, parapsychology, the paranormal, the occult, everything I could get my hands on. And my purpose in doing so was not only to train myself and make my gift as good as it could possibly be, but to find the truth, what worked and what didn't, what was fable and what was myth, and what gave practical results, what was real, something you could hang your hat on. And that's been the focus of my readings for my clients all these years, is what can I give you that you can take and apply in your life in a real way, a practical way, and make your life better with it. It doesn't do any good to impress anybody by telling them insights to things that you couldn't have known other than by psychic means if you don't tell them what to do with that information. And it doesn't do any good to accurately predict the future if you don't tell them, okay, here's how to avoid this, here's how to connect with it if it's positive, and that type of thing. So that's always been my quest, is to make everything practical, to make everything work, and to discover as much of the truth as I possibly can. And along the way, if the truth has shattered my pet peeves and my biases, I've allowed that. I've said, okay, I got to let that go. Here's something that obviously trumps my belief system, and I have to let the truth prevail.
Yeah. Mark?
Yes?
Do you want to say anything?
Well, with the type of... I
saw your Ringo.
You saw my Ringo? What would you say is your predominant abilities? Where you're clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant? I mean, or do you have a mix of gifts?
Everything pretty much works across the board on about an equal level. I don't think that any one thing is stronger than another, and I'm experienced in a lot of disciplines. I work with psychokinesis, I work with automatic writing, with Ouija boards, with pendulums, with crystal balls, with tarot cards, with seances, with direct mediumship, with psychic predictions, everything. And everything is pretty much on a par. Everything is pretty much on an even keel. I don't think there's any one thing that is necessarily stronger than anything else. There are times when one of those gifts that I exercise, or one of those things that I practice, will of necessity come to the fore more than others will in whatever particular situation it's needed. But everything is pretty much on an even keel, and everything is really actually pretty much integrated. I don't really try and focus on any one specific thing. It just kind of all comes together and manifest as what's needed for either myself or the investigation or my clients or whatever I'm doing at the time.
Now, have you done investigations for clients? Have you gone into people's homes to, if they're having paranormal activity, to try to help them?
Yes, I've done that both in person and by telephone, actually. And that's been interesting. And I've done that, like I said, I've done that for corporations, for commercial buildings, things like that as well. But I can actually do that psychically. I can do that, like if I have a client and they're saying, okay, what's going on in my home? I can tell them what's happening without actually having to physically be there. But I enjoy it.
It's just like me, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the furthest I've ever done that is from the UK to New Zealand.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoy physically being there. I really do, because I like the feel of the energies and everything that happen. But just like Irene, I can do it, without having to physically be there. But I enjoy the physicality of it. I enjoy being on the site. I like people. I enjoy interacting with people, and I enjoy directly experiencing the supernatural manifestations.
Well, it's always fascinating when you do have those personal experiences. I mean, I've investigated everything from private homes to old asylums or jails or
right.
or private businesses, and after a while, I haven't done it in a little while. A lot of it, the private homes, was starting to get to be a pain, because I don't know if you've experienced this, but with the last 10, 15 years of paranormal programs being so popular on TV, and everybody thinks they have a demon.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody thinks they have a demon, and
only in America. Here they just think ghosts.
Yeah. But in America we're demon obsessed, and that's one thing that just irks me no end. And like you say, everything that happens, it had to be an evil spirit, or it had to be a demon, or it had to be bad. It's like, no, that's your upbringing, that's your viewpoint. If you were raised with a certain viewpoint or a certain religious orientation, then you're going to interpret every supernatural thing that happens through that orientation. And if it's not a religiously approved, church-approved manifestation, then you're going to automatically assign it to be something evil or demonic, which of course it's not. And people have so many interpretations that way. I know it's wildly popular on these shows, and I dislike them immensely. It's wildly popular to assign things to evil spirits or demons or whatever. And I tell you, in all my years of paranormal investigation, all my years of psychic and supernatural experiences, I have not encountered that. I have not encountered the Hollywood exorcist demon. I haven't encountered the negative evil spirits that people seem to run rampant. I have not encountered those. I'm not saying that evil doesn't exist. Obviously it does. Read the newspaper and you see that it does. And if you extrapolate that, not everything can be, candy and roses on the other side as well. But as far as it being a wholesale event and just everything being malevolent or evil or demonic or something that you need to be wary of, I have not found that to be the experience at all. And it irks me when these shows do, and it irks me when they curse the spirits and in an attempt to call them out, and then they scream and run like little girls when the spirits show themselves. It's like, what are you doing? That's what you're there for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's all to get bums on seats, isn't it?
Exactly.
The fact is, like you said,
right.
it's a very rare occurrence to have anything really evil or bad.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And in my 20 years of investigating, there are only 2 times I ever encountered something that I thought was slightly negative, but not anything I would consider to be demonic or anything like that. But but the problem with these television shows, and John, you can help speak to some of this because I understand you filmed a pilot for the History Channel.
I did.
So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. But
sure,
I've been called in and worked on a couple of these television shows, and I have a television film background, so I know the industry.
Right.
And all these producers care about is, demons, anything that can scare people. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about helping anybody. All they care about is keeping butts in the seats to sell, advertising time.
That's it.
And, we had, I've told the story a million times. I'll keep it short. We, remember that old show, Paranormal State?
Yes.
The kids from Penn State going around, and they contacted us looking for cases. I recommended a case, and then we wound up regretting it because they treated our clients like crap, gave their personal information out over the air when they asked them to keep it private, caught them if lying in some parts or misrepresenting evidence that we had caught.
Yep.
And doing
totally unethical.
Yeah, totally unethical. And I've blasted them publicly for it.
For you.
Is that the coke sniffers?
Yeah, that's where, the lead investigator comes out of the bathroom and the client catches him with powder all over his nose. It's like, great, just for an investigation? Nice.
Oh, man.
No wonder he was seeing things.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, well, it came out later what a bad druggie he was. He had a lot of personal problems.
Oh,
but
my.
They still though caught some things there. And but that was also one of my favorite cases that I've investigated over a number of years. And a lot of this stuff that people tend to think of as being evil or demonic, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, John. Either you're dealing with a nasty human spirit, and they're nasty in life, they're nasty in death, or something more elemental, some kind of nature. I don't want to necessarily call it even a spirit, some kind of nature entity that can be mischievous, and some of that mischievous can be interpreted as something bad.
Right. I agree 100%. It's like, people think that when you die, you go to the other side, you immediately get your wings and your halo, and that's not the case. You retain your personality, your thoughts, your memories, your will, and everything when you get there. And then you go through this, best I can understand, you go through this process of learning and maturing and review and kind of, furthering your life, reviewing life lessons and kind of figuring out, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I've done. This is what I need to work on. This is, what can I go back and maybe through my spiritual energy, going back, visiting my loved ones, can I help them? Can I correct anything? So we're not just automatically super saints when we get to the other side. Absolutely right. And when we experience something that may be like a negative energy or a negative imprint, that may not be evil itself. It may just be simply showing us a replay of something evil that occurred there, for example. And then as far as the other spirits that are not like angelic spirits or guides, they're not human spirits. They were never in human form. Maybe they're elementals. Maybe they're nature spirits. Maybe there's things that we don't even know what they are or have a correct designation or label for. They're not going to be human-minded in the first place, and we have to recognize that some of what they do we may misinterpret as being scary or evil or demonic or whatever when it's actually not. It's just like if you go to a friend's house and this friend has a big old dog, and the dog is rough and rambunctious and really big and burly, and you walk in and the dog runs out and he runs up to you and kind of bumps into you and you're like, oh my god, the dog's attacking me. No, he's not attacking you. That's just how he plays. That's just how he gets to know people. And the friend tells you, that's all right, it's okay, he's not going to hurt you, he just wants to play, and he's a little clumsy and he's a little physical. And so some of these spirits could be that exact same way. It's like, hey, I'm here, I'm knocking this off the counter to let you know I'm here. I'm rattling the door. I'm doing this. I want your attention. And so a lot of it can be exactly that. I agree with you 100%, Mark.
Yeah, it's in the research that we've been doing over the last several years, that my whole viewpoint and philosophy on the paranormal has changed drastically. I'm not even sure I believe in the traditional concept of ghosts anymore.
Right.
Because everyone always goes back to the Victorian era ideas of ghosts and spiritualism. And the people spout off things, especially on these television shows, but even other paranormal researchers, they all parrot the same thing. They've all been taught the same thing when there's absolutely no proof to it whatsoever. And just because you see an apparition of a woman in Victorian clothing walking down the stairs doesn't mean you've just seen a ghost.
Bingo.
There's a lot of things that we are coming to have a better understanding of, including time slips, interdimensional activity, overlapping time.
Things left in the environment that replay as kind of a film for us to let us know about an incident or something that happened there.
Yeah, and but here's my question on that one. The people talk about the stone tape theory, which is that the ground or the area, holds on to the energy of a past event and replays it. Now, I can understand some place like, let's say, Gettysburg, where, which is only 3 hours from me, and love that place. But, for 3 days of a horrendous battle and all that energy and dying, and of course, it's very haunted, and people have seen lots of different apparitions and seeing whole brigades marching across Pickett's Field. I mean, I can understand that energy imprinting. But other times, when you see something simple, something mundane, why would that imprint? Why would you have an imprint of somebody just walking down the stairs or somebody walking through a door?
Tell you about this house.
Emotional.
Yeah. I've got three ghosts in this house. But every now and then, there's 2 kitchens in this house. One that I use, and the old kitchen to the house is just more or less a junk room now, But every now and then, people who have been asleep or upstairs in bed have heard clattering of dishes and plates and pots and pans being put away or whatever, or being washed up. There's nothing like that in there, nothing at all. But it happens quite regular. I don't take no notice of it, but I've had guests stay in the house and say, oh, something was happening in the old kitchen last night. I heard all this clattering and this, that, and the other.
Well, what about the footsteps in your house?
Oh,
You're constantly footsteps.
In between 5 and 6 in the morning. Yeah, hobnail boots coming up the stairs. My mum used to be terrified of that.
Well, I do think some things imprint just from an emotional standpoint, maybe a fond memory or fond emotion of the area, and that may imprint there.
That may be the answer, John, because this house, my ghosts were the ones that built this house.
Right.
And there's only been 2 families live in this house. Yeah. 3 families. 3 families live in this house. And it's a very old house. So
now, another thing, here's something for you guys to think about. This just came to me the other day. My producer said, he said, John, I can't believe you haven't thought of this before now. I said, I haven't. I said, it just literally came to me as a revelation. I just literally had this epiphany the other day. And the way it occurred, I was sitting around, I was very nostalgic. And I was thinking about my old hometown and a bunch of my friends and people on the other side now, and my family, my old house, my old haunts, all my old places and things, and I was just very, very nostalgic, and it hit me like an anvil right between the eyes. It was like, what if a lot of the hauntings that we experience are nostalgia on the parts of the spirits on the other side? Now, let's assume that you owned a farm and you loved to work that farm. You loved to till the land, and you had horses and you had livestock and you had all this, and that was your life, and you just absolutely loved it. And then you died and you've been on the other side for 5, 10, 15 years. And maybe on the other side one day you say, you know what? I think I'm going to go visit the old farm and see what they've done to it and see how it looks. I'm missing the old farm. And so you go in spirit to the old farm, and there you are, and the curtain was just right between this side and the other side, and somebody sees you. They go, oh, a ghost. And then they try and figure out why the ghost is there and who was it and why is it haunting this place and is there a message and was it dangerous? Am I in danger? And all this nonsense that people come up with. And maybe it was just that the curtain was thin, the veil between the other side was thin, and they saw the person as they came back just out of nostalgia to visit the old home place. And maybe some hauntings are just that, just nostalgia on the part of the people that used to live there or be there or work there or whatever. And I thought, wow, what a revelation. What an incredible thing to think about. It makes sense. Maybe some of it is just, I tell people all the time, I said, we don't automatically have to assign some deep, dark, ultimate, mysterious, infinite meaning to every manifestation we get. Sometimes the ghost on the other side or the spirits, whoever they are, whatever they are, may just be saying, hey, I'm here. Just want you to know I'm here. And I'm here. And just like the same way that, we sit at a bus stop, somebody comes, sits down. Hey, how you doing? All right. Boy, it sure is hot today. Yeah, it is. Boy, how about this weather? And that's it. You're just connecting with another human being for just a few seconds, just to feel alive, to make that human connection. And maybe spirits on the other side do the same thing. Maybe they're like, hey, I'm here. Just want you to know I'm around. And maybe some of these hauntings are nothing more than nostalgia. Hey, I wonder what the old house looks like. I wonder if the people have remodeled it or if they've done this or if they've done that. And they just go back and look. And maybe some hauntings are that.
Well, this is it, yeah. Just the same way as, they come back, or a lot of people will report their loved ones coming back a few days after they died.
Right.
They feel them, It's nostalgia,
absolutely. Yeah.
It could well be. Yeah.
Well, my brother, when his wife passed away last year from cancer, the very next night, he heard her in the house and heard her voice talking to the dogs and felt her walking around. And it was like for 2 days before it diminished.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They coming back and saying their last goodbyes.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's true. And I think some people, for whatever reason, and this is the frustration of it, guys, is that we just, for all of our knowledge, all of our learning, all of our experiences, all of our study, we still hadn't got it yet. And it's like some people from the other side can communicate with us so well and so easily. And then other people on the other side, it seems like we have a very difficult time hearing from them at all. I remember I had a buddy of mine, and I write about that in my first book. And he was a fellow biker, and he died. And this guy made the most astonishing series of physical communications from the other side of anybody that I have ever known. He communicated with us. He communicated with his widow many times in evidential ways that other people experienced, saw, and so on and so forth. He communicated with his friends. And I mean, just incredible things. I'll give you one example. We were all bikers, and he rode with us. And he had this vest, like many bikers do, that he covered with pins. It was festooned with pins. Some of the pins were political statements. Some were bike events he had been to, and on and on and on. So he prized these pins. He loved these pins because some of them were very, very old, very hard to get, very rare. And I used to wear pins on my vest, and I got tired of it and quit it. I'd be flying down the road, and the pins would fly off on the highway, and it's like, okay, there goes a $10 pin, never to be seen again. And so I asked him one day, I said, how in the world do you keep your pins on when we're flying down the road at speed? And he said, with his trademark grin, he said, I super glue the backs on. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyways, the pins were a big thing with him on this vest, right? So after he died, a buddy of mine and his that we all used to ride together, he called me up and he says, hey, he said, let's go for a ride. There's something I want to look at. And then after we do that, we'll go ride out to one of our old watering holes where we all used to together and we'll grab a bottle of beer or something. I said, okay. So we did, and as we rode out there, we got stopped, and we parked in a couple of parking spaces right beside each other, and we're leaning on our bikes, just leaning back on our bikes, talking to each other. And from outside of, or rather the inside of his vest, the backs of the pins on his vest start flying out of his vest at all these odd, impossible angles and going like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet. And then the pins start flying off the front of his vest. And not just a few, like a bunch, and it's like popcorn, watching popcorn going. And he's like, what in God's name? What in the world is this? And I said, it's Vic. It's our buddy Vic. He's letting you know that he's here with us. And we're at one of our old watering holes, and he's letting you know we're here. And he's like, man, I guess so. That can be the only explanation. So he gathers up all of his pins, gets them back on his vest. We go and we get a brew, and we sit down at a table, and we're talking. We start talking about Vic, and he starts talking about some of the ways that Vic communicated other ways to other people. And as he's telling those stories, all of a sudden, all of the pins on his vest start flying off again, and the backs from the inside of his vest start flying out at all these impossible angles. I mean, like flying out at speed, like shooting out. And he's like, and I said, yep, Vic's letting us know for sure he's here. He's absolutely here. So this guy gave us all these bizarre, incredible, wonderful communications repeatedly for a long period of time. And then there's other people that I know they're on the other side, and I know they're close, and for whatever reason, they just can't seem to make that connection as well. They just can't seem to get through sometimes. And that's the frustration of it.
You think about it, for a ghost that can't get through to somebody, it's like trying to communicate with someone who's blind and deaf.
Right.
So what do? Throw something, knock something off, take something,
But it's like some people can do that from the other side so much better than other people, and it's like, why can the other people not communicate that well, that frequently, that
well, maybe it's the person they're trying to communicate to. You see, if that person's to them, put yourself in a position of a ghost. It's it's trying to communicate to somebody that has got no abilities whatsoever to sense them, feel them, or anything like that.
Oh, that's very true.
And for that ghost, it is like trying to communicate with somebody who's blind and deaf.
Right.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Good point, Irene. That's a good point. Good point.
With my lot, if I ignore them, they just chuck things at me.
Yeah, there you go.
Or they pinch my glasses, or
or maybe it's just because you're so annoying.
Coming through the ceiling and hitting me on the head.
Or maybe you're just being so annoying. I mean, if I were there in person, I'd be chucking things at you.
Irene, you talking about ghost chucking things? I had when I was filming the pilot for the History Channel, we got a little break in the filming, and this lady, one of the people that worked with the docents there at this place we're at, historic house we were at, she came up to me and she said, when we get a break, when you get a break in the filming, I have to talk to you. I said, okay. So we got off over to the side during a break in the filming, and she said, a ghost tried to kill me. I said, no ghost tried to kill you. And she said, yes. She said, I was in my kitchen, and from across the cupboard, they opened up the door, grabbed a plate out of it, and threw it across the wall, and it hit the wall, threw it across the kitchen, hit the wall by my head, and shattered in a million pieces. The ghost tried to kill me. I said, the ghost didn't try and kill you. I said, the ghost was trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
I said,
that's it.
I perceived psychically, and I told her, I said, I perceived that the other sides have been trying to communicate with you in a lot of ways for a lot of time, and you've been basically blowing it off as coincidence or ignoring it or whatever. And I said, they're frustrated, and they just decided, okay, ignore this. And they're just trying to get your attention. They did something that you couldn't ignore. And I said, they're not attempting to hurt you. If they wanted to hurt you, they would have. But they didn't. They're just getting your attention. I said, now, take that at face value and open up to the other side, because they have a lot they want to get through to you, to guide you, to protect you, and to help you, and so on and so forth. So it made sense to her. And, but that's one of those incidents where the goofball shows would go, oh, a demon tried to kill her, and it's like, come on, you know.
But have you ever noticed that when they do throw something at you, it always misses?
Yeah.
They have a very bad aim.
Yeah, they never hurt you. They never hit you. It's just, hey, I'm going to get your attention.
It always misses.
Yep.
Mm.
Well, unless you're Carl Beatty and you get dragged up the stairs by a rope.
Oh, yeah. That's different.
You gotta love Most Haunted.
Yeah.
Talking about screaming and running out of every place you go into.
Yeah, really. And it's like, guys, that's why you're there. What are you doing?
Right, I noticed that you've had some doppelganger experiences. Now, this interests me because I've been seen in loads of places that I haven't even been in.
I've had some very bizarre doppelganger experiences. Normally, people define a doppelganger as a double of somebody that's on Earth. And
that's what my experiences are.
Yeah,
I've been told by so many people, what were you doing at such and such a place?
Yeah.
When I was nowhere near it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the same with mine. They weren't the doubles of people that were normal. It was people that, when these occurred, I knew where the people were at. Yeah. And the most dramatic one occurred one morning. I was out real early, and I was driving down the street, had a long curve to it. And it was a 4-lane street, and I was in the inside lane. And coming over in the opposite direction of the inside lane was this woman I was dating at the time. Now, she was a very flashy, spectacular woman. There's no way in the world you could miss her you could put her in a crowd and point her out. Put her in a crowd of 100,000 people, you could point her out. And she had a distinctive car, and she had some distinctive decorations in this car, which made it stand out even more. So I'm looking down the street, and here's her car, and here she's coming, and I'm like, well, what in the world? Because she's normally not out and about that early. And as she approaches, I flash my lights and start waving at her and everything, and she doesn't respond. And I look to make sure it's her, and it's absolutely without any question of a doubt. It's absolutely her. It's absolutely her car with her decorations in it and everything. No question. And she gets closer, and I'm hanging my hand out the window, and I'm waving. I start honking, and she ignores me. And as she gets really close, she's staring straight ahead. She's got this death grip on the wheel, and she's staring straight ahead with the weirdest look on her face of any look I've ever seen on any human being. And I'm like, well, what in God's name? And she gets right close to me, and I honk again. She goes right past me, doesn't even look. I definitely know it's her. I'm like a few feet away from her because we're in the lane right next to each other, a few feet apart. And I know beyond any shadow of a doubt it's her. And I'm like, well, what in God's name? So I had a phone in the truck, and I grabbed the phone. I said, well, I'll leave a message for her and say, hey, I waved at you, honked at you, flicked my lights, said, why didn't you respond? So I call her number. I'm watching the car in the rearview mirror go down the road as I'm calling her number. And a few rings later, she answers. And I can't talk for a minute. And I said, what in the world are you doing home? She goes, well, idiot, where else would I be? I live here. And I said, oh, my God. And I said, I just saw you just now in your car. You drove right past me. And it was like, holy cow. So we said, okay, it's obviously something paranormal. And, we'll discuss it later. I had to go on about my business at that point, and we'll discuss it later. But that was the most dramatic doppelganger experience I've had. And we were never
I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
I was on my way. I just got into work, and a woman I worked with, she said, oh, sorry, we didn't pick you up at the bus stop. She said, but we were in a hurry. My husband had to get to work, and I had to drop him off before I came here. I said, what do you mean, pick me up at the bus stop? I said, I came by train. She said, no, we saw you at the bus stop. And she told me where it was. It was the other side of London, the opposite side of London to where I was. I was at this, I came from the south of London into London. She was talking about the other side of London, going into London.
Wow.
Another time, a boyfriend came up to me and he said, well, you were quick getting home. I said, what? He said, you were in the laundry just now doing your laundry. I said, what do you mean doing my laundry? My mum's got a washing machine. But it swore blind that he'd seen me in the laundry, doing my laundry.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So, it does happen, people.
It does happen. Absolutely it does.
Well, I'm always being told that I've got a double out there somewhere. Yeah. Always. But
the interesting thing is, like with this lady, it's impossible for for that to have been a double of hers because it was the same car, the same decorations in the car, and it was like no possible way anybody could have duplicated it.
Could it have been a time slip?
Yeah. Who knows? Just really bizarre, really odd.
I have loads of time slips, don't I, Mark?
A time slip, or here's another possibility. Something interdimensional in the fact that, they're starting to understand with theories like string theory, and even when we've talked with other people like Whitley Strieber, and they talk about the ideas of multiple realities, all happening simultaneously, and maybe those realities overlap once in a while, and that could explain some of these doppelganger experiences. Are, you did see your girlfriend and she was driving by, but it was in a slightly altered reality, a different reality that was kind of merging. You could see her, maybe because of your psychic abilities, but she couldn't see you, but that she was driving by you in another reality.
Yeah.
Which, that doesn't answer my woman.
Right.
My son was doing up a very, very big old mansion house in London, and he was showing us around. It was empty. He was showing us around, and we were up in the attic where the servants live, and we're wandering around in all these different rooms up in the attic and everything. And as I came out of this one room, or about to come out of this one room, there was a woman standing there right in front of me, and she looked as shocked to see me as I was to see her. She had shock on her face. And she was, she was a maid from the, say, 1930s or 20s, something like that, the way she was dressed. Now, I bet you, I often think about this. She must have gone back and said, God, I've seen a ghost.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, see, that goes along with what we were talking about earlier, and we've mentioned many times. It's our perception of time being linear is an illusion. They're figuring out that all time is happening at once, and this is where you'll get these bleed overs or these time slips. And in that case, I think what you experienced was a time slip where you and that woman, you didn't see a ghost. You saw a very much living, breathing human being who just happened to be living at a different time or vibration, whatever, and the conditions were just right that the two of you were able to see each other for a few moments. We were only inches apart from each other, and she looked straight at me. I looked straight at her, and she was as solid as could be. Yeah. At that instant. But as soon as I stepped over that threshold, turned around and looked back into the room, there was nothing there. Yeah. Yep.
It's true, Mark, that could explain some of it. And, the heck of it is at this stage of the game, we just don't know. That's where we're trying to get to. And it's like with UFOs. We just don't know. There's all kinds of theory and speculation and everything out there. But the best ufologist will tell you, hey, we don't know. We're waiting for that defining moment where we finally got that truth. And boy, do I have some thoughts on UFOs, too.
Well, what's UFO Museum?
Oh,
come on, tell us.
I went to the Roswell UFO Museum in New Mexico, and I was born in New Mexico, and I had never been back. And so they had an event called Alien Encounter 98. This was back in 1998, and I went to give psychic readings. And there were a lot of famous speakers there, including Stanton Friedman, and I got to see Stanton Friedman's lecture, which was really amazing. And one morning I got up and I was like, I'm gonna go down to the UFO Museum. So I went down and I got there before it opened. So I'm standing on the sidewalk, peeking through the windows and everything, waiting for it to open up. And there's not many people on the sidewalk. And this woman walks by. And for whatever reason, she strikes up a conversation with me. I say hi. She says hi. And she goes, are you here for the museum? Or is this your first time? And I said, yeah, it is. And she said, do you live here in New Mexico? And I said, no. I said, it's funny you ask. I said, I was actually born in Carlsbad, and I've never been back. This is my first time back in to New Mexico really to do anything. And she goes, oh, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a psychic. And I said, I'm here at Alien Encounter 98, and I'm providing readings. And she goes, oh, how interesting. And one thing leads to another, and this is what she tells me. She said, I know you'll understand. I know you'll believe me. And she said, when I was a young girl, me and my brother were outside playing, and we saw the UFO fly over and crash. And we could tell that it was in trouble. We could tell that it was having difficulties. And she said, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt it wasn't a plane, it wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't a balloon, it wasn't anything else. We knew it was a UFO. We could see that it was in trouble, and then we saw it crash over in the distance. And I was just gobsmacked. I was like, holy cow, what an experience, and what a unique bit of synchronicity to meet this woman of all people on the sidewalk here by chance, quote unquote, and to have her tell me this. And then she says, and I said, well, I said, we talked a little bit more, and I said, I wish more people like you that were eyewitnesses could come forward and give more testimony and do more. And she says, well, let me tell you something. She said, back then when this occurred, she said, we had people come into town from, some of them we think were military, some of them we think were maybe congressional, political people or whatever. Some we didn't know who were. And she said they came to people that were witnesses and were starting to talk and had seen things. And they told us point blank, if you don't shut up about this and don't talk about it, don't give interviews, don't tell anybody you saw this, keep your mouth shut. Otherwise, you and your family's bones are going to be found out in the desert sand.
Wow.
And I was, that's what I said. Oh, my God. I said, wow. And we talked only a tiny bit more, and she snapped her head left and right several times, looking up and down the street, and said, I've said too much. I've got to go. Bye. It's nice to meet you, and walked off at a fast clip. So all those years later, the fear was still there from the threats that these people had encountered. Now, this is a person that was an eyewitness to that and told me that, and this is what, the government and other authorities, military, whomever, she said some people I didn't know who were, like the stereotypical Men in Black type personages, and they didn't know who they were, but they received these death threats. And so I imagine that's a lot of the problem that we have with people coming forward, and some of it, the non-disclosure agreements. Like I had a good friend that was a major in the Air Force, fighter pilot, worked for the NSA a little bit, and so on and so forth. And he had a lot of neat things to tell me, but he never broke his non-disclosure agreement. He never broke his secrecy vows. He never broke his top secret clearance, and he did have a top secret clearance. And he never violated any of that. That was sacrosanct to him until his death. And so a lot of these people take that so seriously. But at the stage of the game that we're at now, people are going to have to do something. They're going to have to come out. I watched a deal with Richard Dolan the other day, and he was saying that he doesn't believe that we're entering a golden age of disclosure. He believes that things are getting worse and that we're actually watching the window for disclosure actually close, that we have a very short period of time to make enough noise to make something happen. And then if we don't, and if that shuts down, then it's going to be, we just think we've received, something that the government wants us to know and nothing more. His viewpoint is that after that, things will be just, meted out at ridiculously minuscule levels of untruth. And so this is what we need to push for now, I think. And, I have problems with, can we talk about UFOs for a little bit?
Sure.
I was just going to say, though, the problem is these witnesses are now getting older. They're dying off.
Yeah.
So maybe they've told members of their family, and in years to come, the members of the family will say, my grandmother this, my grandmother. It's all hearsay then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, they are dying off, and that takes away the first-person witness account.
That's right.
And, I tell you, my problem with UFOs, here's my thing, guys, is that, people have this thing of, if they're that advanced, then they must surely be benign or benevolent, because, if they're that far advanced, they could have conquered us, wiped us out, enslaved us, whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I don't go with that, and I'll tell you why, Irene. For one thing, look at the interactions that are recorded between UFOs and between Earthlings. And what do we get? We get abducted, we get probed, we get hideous experiments, and there's supposed cattle mutilations tied to them and so on and so forth. Now, those are not the actions of benevolent, benign beings, okay?
They're learning.
Yeah.
Studying us. Yeah.
Yeah. And my problem with the idea of them being benevolent or benign is that, look, if you're benevolent, you're benign, you're going to do something to help people, not hurt people, okay? And if you've got this vast amount of technology and this vast amount of knowledge and this vast amount of learning, out of all these beings, isn't there somebody that can come down, and I repeat this argument every chance I get, isn't there somebody that can come down and communicate with somebody? Say, hey, meet us out in the woods, and instead of abducting them and doing strange experiments on them, can't they say, here, on this planet, we can't yet stop the volcanoes and the earthquakes and the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the tsunamis, but take this and hand them something. Take this and have a chemist compound this and give it to the kids in St. Jude, and we'll heal all the kids' cancers in St. Jude's. Now I'm impressed, okay? Now I'm impressed. So if there's any benevolence out there, if there's any kindness out there, if there's any compassion out there amongst these supposed, superior beings, throw us a bone, guys. Give us something, But that's not happening, and that's my great concern.
Yeah, I could never understand with all their technology why, if they were, if they were bad, why they hadn't taken over.
Right, and the thing is, maybe there's some possibility that for whatever reason they can't, whether that's a spiritual protection that's there against them, or whether it's a government military protection against them. The Giorgio Tsoukalos, the Ancient Aliens guy. I was watching him on Contact in the Desert 2020 that was moderated by George Noory, and that's available on YouTube. And in that, Giorgio Tsoukalos says, hey, I'm all for Space Force. And the reason is that, okay, let's assume these guys are benign or benevolent or whatever. Maybe there's a faction of them that aren't. And if they aren't, how do we protect ourselves? So I'm all for the Space Force. And I have to agree there. It's like, look, if they land, here I'm an American, so we always say in America, if they land on the White House lawn, and that's so funny because somebody said the other day when I said that, they said they couldn't land anywhere else in the world, right? It's like, right, they couldn't land at the Kremlin or, at the palace in London or anything like that. It's got to be the White House lawn. You have that American perception. So I said, if they land on the White House lawn, we still don't know anything because there's two things that have to be answered still. Number one is, you meet somebody, you don't know who that person is. They have to prove themselves to you. Are they a thief? Are they a liar? Are they a druggie? Are they a murderer? Are they this? Are they that? You have to take time to get to know the person. They have to earn your trust and respect, prove themselves to you. It'll be the same way with alien intelligences. How do we know what they're telling us is the truth? How do we know if we can trust them or not? So we go through all that scenario. The second thing is that I just lost my train of thought there all of a sudden. Oh, my goodness. It'll come to me here in a little bit. But that was the first thing was like now I know what it was. The first thing is that, we have to learn, are these people trustworthy or not? Are what they're telling us is the truth or not? And that takes that's a process of time. And then the second thing is and I just had it and lost it again, for Pete's sake. Isn't that the craziest thing? I'm under some kind of... The ring, Irene's ring is doing something.
I was going to say the ring's acting up.
The ring is acting up. It's like...
trying to keep this information from getting out.
Exactly right.
Well, let me interject here a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because, one of the...
Oh, wait. The second thing is... There still has to be a creation origin. Who created them? Who made them? There still has to be this spiritual component to things. And it's like, people say, oh, the aliens made us. Fine, okay, I can accept that. Who made the aliens? There still has to be a creator story. There still has to be a creation origin. There still has to be a spiritual component behind all this that we still have to commit to. Thank you, Ring. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I agree with you that there is a spiritual component, and it's actually, I would again look at it more of an interdimensional component as well. I mean, we've had the opportunity to interview a lot of experiencers, abductees, contactees, whatever you would want to call them, right. Over the years. And some have had, positive experiences, some have had very negative experiences. Right, and, right. We've had Whitley Strieber on several times, and I've always followed his case, and which is very
he's an amazing guy. Yeah.
Very, very fascinating gentleman. And he's had, we actually had some weird stuff happen the last couple times he was on our show. Right. But you know what? If you read his books, from the early books from Communion onward to some of the new ones now, how his whole opinion of the phenomenon has evolved and changed, and he's got a whole new outlook on it. He started off from very fear-based to now it's more of an interconnected relationship with beings who are still beyond our understanding. Right, and there are more than one. There's dozens of, if not more, of different races here with different agendas. And
I believe that.
And some of those agendas, especially if you talk to Dr. David Jacobs, think they're very negative or hostile towards us. They don't have our best interests at heart.
Right.
But in a lot of these cases, they take a step or it's like the Prime Directive in Star Trek, a non-interference, or not directly like landing on the White House lawn or handing out, here we're going to cure all your problems for you. Right. It's taking a step back and saying, you need to fix it yourself. Yeah. We'll help, push and guide. It's like people who have guardian angels, or even, people who get impressions from the spirit world or whatnot.
Sure.
They're not allowed to intervene directly, but they guide, they push, they do certain things.
There I have to disagree with you, Mark, because in my experiences, I have had them intervene directly. And I mean literally intervene directly, physically. So that is possible, and that's why I wonder. I think we tend to, and not disagreeing with what you've said, but I think we tend to spiritualize a little too much, or make excuses for the other side, the aliens, and so on and so forth, and saying, okay, well, they can't or won't because of this, they can't or won't because of that. But we have to extrapolate compassion. If you're going down the street and you see a little kid standing on the corner crying, you're going to stop and say, hey, what's the matter? I don't know where my mom is. You're going to do everything in your power to help the kid locate his mom, right? That type of thing. So we have to extrapolate that if there's compassion out there in the universe among other species, other races, whatever, and there has to be, then at some point they're going to want to intervene, want to help, want to give some kind of direct guidance. And like with my guardian angels, I have had literal physical intervention, not some, pie in the sky by and by guidance and take it or leave it. I've had literal physical intervention that sometimes has literally saved my life. So I think that's one of the things that I look at and question and wonder about, and wonder if we can't somehow make a better connection there, if there isn't something forthcoming that could be better. And it's all frustrating because, look, the other side plays peekaboo with us at its best. And for all of my experiences and for my gifts and for everything I've experienced, it's still a peekaboo process. We don't get what we want when we want it. But my experience has been geared toward finding those literal experiences, those physical experiences, those literal physical manifestations, and those direct interventions. And I've experienced them, I've had them, and I've been able to introduce my clients to them and let them have the same things. So that's where my push is. And my push is to try and get more people to have that and more ways to find that. And it seems to be a very difficult process, which is frustrating, and I don't understand, other than if there are people out there that just, whatever intelligences, entities or whatever, that don't want that to occur. But that's where I'm going with everything at this point.
Talking about guardian angels, have you ever had them turn up in solid form?
I have, yes. And
so have I.
Yeah, and I've had them directly intervene in ways that were literally life-saving, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you unless they had done that. And there were times that I knew that they did, and there were times that I didn't know what they had been doing until it was revealed to me that they had been doing it all that time, and they were doing it on a physical level. Literally a physical level. There was nothing metaphysical, spiritual, anything like that about it. It was literally on a physical level, and it literally saved several lives.
Yeah, I've had the same thing. Only when I've been in trouble, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so what happened with you then?
I was in trouble and didn't know I was in trouble. This one incident. Let me tell you about this, which is really fantastic, and this shows you the intervention on a physical level. And I write about this in my second book, A Knock in the Attic. There was, my parents had bought this home, my childhood home I grew up in, and we had always been pretty poor. And as life progressed, my parents fell on harder and harder times, and they didn't have the money to maintain our house. And after I had moved away from the childhood home, and my sister had been off on her own since she was about 16, I think. And there came a time in our lives that my sister divorced, I divorced, my dad had died, my mother was ill and on the way to becoming bedfast and then dying several years down the road. And so my sister and I both moved back home, ostensibly to take care of our mom, but I think both of us just kind of needed shelter as well, kind of some shelter from the storms that we were going through. And so we both moved back home. Now, throughout my growing up there, as my parents became less and less able to take care of the house and perform even routine maintenance, and it was an all-gas house. We had gas hot water heater, gas cook stove, gas heaters, space heaters, floor furnaces, wall heaters, so on and so forth. And over the years, we would smell these odors, and the plumbing underneath the house was coming apart, and my parents couldn't afford to keep it up. And so we, counted that as my well sewer gas maybe or whatever, and we would smell these odors frequently, and it happened a lot. Now, since I was a young man, we had always celebrated, especially at Christmas, with a lot of candles, and we burned candles, incense, that type of thing. And then as a young man, I loved candles and incense. I still do. I've got a candle going over here right now as we're talking. And when my sister and I moved back home, we continued to smell these odors, and we were like, well, it's just the old house falling apart. Maybe the plumbing's going, and that's what we're smelling. And so this had gone on for decades. And when I moved back home, I continued to burn candles and incense in abundance and so on and so forth. So my mother died years later, and my sister and I were still living there. And I had come in and was sitting down. It was a bright, sunny day. I remember bright, sunny evening, and it was cold. It was in January. And I was had all the heat on in the house, and then I turned down everything except what I needed to stay warm. And I was sitting there watching the news, and I was really interested in the news. I had a large bedroom. I had my bed, my recliner, my TV set up. And over in the bathroom, where there was a wall heater I had lit, I saw something flickering, I thought, and I looked over, and there was a tree outside my bedroom, and the sun shining on that cast a shadow on my bedspread of the leaves and everything, and a gentle breeze was blowing, and it was the shadow was kind of flickering around. I thought, oh, that's all I've seen. I went back to looking at the news show, and then I kept seeing this flickering, and I looked over, and I thought, that's not the shadows from the tree leaves. That's coming from the bathroom. And I looked over, and from the inlet pipe, the gas inlet pipe to the wall heater, there was a tongue of flame shooting out of there about 6 or 8 inches long.
No.
And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So I ran over to the bathroom, and I just stood there frozen for a second looking. I thought the whole house is going to blow sky high here in a minute. This is it. And I reached down, I turned off the heater, and in the grate, all the flames went out in the heater itself, but the tongue of flame kept burning out of the inlet pipe. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? So I ran to call the gas company. I said, told them what happened. I said, what do I do? They said, do you have a wrench, and do you know where the gas meter is? Can you cut it off? And I said, yes, because I've always been mechanical. I had tools and everything. So I grabbed a wrench, ran out, cut the gas meter off, and they told me, they said, we're sending emergency vehicles right now. I said, okay. So I went and I cut the gas meter off, and I came back in. The flame went out, and I was like, oh, thank God. So I went out. By then it's getting close to, like I say, it's in January, so it's getting close to twilight when the guy shows up. He has to have his headlights on his truck, and he gets there in a very short amount of time. He parks in the alley behind our house, and I walk out to meet him, and he said, where's your gas meter at? And I said, it's right there. He had missed it in the alley. When he came in, the gas meter was out in the alley on the other side of our fence. And so he gets out, and I had turned on the light inside the house. Now, we had one of those old push-button switches. You push the button and it makes a little spark and the light comes on. So I had turned on the light with one of those old switches. We had a landline telephone. You dial that and it makes sparks and everything. So he gets out and he gets this meter out of his truck and he turns it on. It's a gas detection meter, and it has both sound and a needle. And he turns it on, and it squeals super loudly, and the needle pegs. And he's like, what in the world? So he turns it off. He turns it back on, does the same thing. He turns it off, and he literally whacks it with his hand. He says, this darn thing, something must be wrong with it. He turns it back on. It squeals again. So we're walking up to the house, and he said, well, let's go look in your house. And we get up, and periodically he turns the meter on the way, and it's still going nuts. So we get to the house, turns it on, goes nuts. And we walk up on the back porch. I had left the door open. Yeah. And through the screen door, he goes, oh, my God, can you smell that? You can't smell that? And I said, what? He said, gas. The house is full of gas. And we walk in. The meter goes off, and he goes, oh, my God. He said, the meter's not wrong. He said, everything is leaking. The line's leaking. The meter's leaking. The house is full of gas. Everything's leaking in here. Even though it's supposed to be shut off, it's still leaking gas. He said, get every door and window open that you can, and I'll help you. So we start opening doors and windows. And he walks out on the front porch, and he's like, I got to get a breath of air. He said, I'm dizzy. I'm about to pass out. He said, this isn't affecting you. You can't smell this gas. I said, no. I said, it really hadn't bothered me. Really hadn't overwhelmed me. He said, my God, I'm nearly dizzy. So we go back in after a little bit with all the doors and windows open. The gas meter is still squealing and still pegging the meter. And he goes, oh, my God. He said, this is insane. Well, about this time, another emergency vehicle pulls up behind his. So we go out, and he meets the guy. He starts telling him the story, and he goes, oh, my God, how bad was the guy burned? And he said, he's not. That's him right there. And he's like, no. He says, come here, I'll show you. They go in. He shows him the hole that developed somehow in that inlet pipe in the gas heater. And the guy's like, my God. And so both of them look at me and they tell me this, quote unquote, this is your Christmas miracle. It's late. Yeah. It's January, but this is your Christmas miracle. This house should have been blown sky high decades ago. There should be a hole here, a crater here the size of Detroit. This neighborhood should have been destroyed. He said, this is your Christmas miracle. If you don't believe in guardian angels, you better now. And I said, well, I believe in guardian angels. So about that time, my sister calls, and she said, hey, how would you like Kentucky Fried Chicken for dinner? I said, you don't know how timely that is, because we got no way to cook. And I told her what had happened. She was like, oh, my God, are you okay? And I said, yeah, and I'll tell you more when you get here. So she gets there with our food. The guys from the gas company tell her the same thing. She looks at me bug-eyed. I look at her bug-eyed. I'm like, wow. So they said, okay, we have to pull your meter. We're going to come out. You'll have to get plumbers to come out and replumb everything, all the lines, and then we'll come out and reset the meter, sign off on it once it's good. And they kept reiterating how, if you don't believe in guardian angels, you better, because this is a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Oh, way more than lucky. So the next day, the plumbers come out, and I come home at lunch, and they said, you're not going to believe this. What they do is they pump the lines full of air, And then they open up this valve, and there's this thing like think of a blood pressure cuff with a mercury gauge on it. And how fast that falls is how fast the lines are leaking. So they said, we pump up the pressure, we open it up, and the gauge immediately plummets to zero. Doesn't go down gradually, immediately, like a stone, plummets to zero. They said, John, 17 major leaks. The gas meter leaked. The line to the house leaked. Every appliance in the house leaked. Under the house leaked. 17 major leaks. All those years, 17 major leaks. So the guardian angels had been saving us all of those years in a physical manner. All of those years. And so that's a dramatic story of physical, literal guardian angel intervention that we didn't even know was occurring at the time, and then came to light, became manifest, and thank God that they did, and that I'm here to tell about it, and that I got to write about it in the book. But guardian angels do literally, physically intervene on our behalves. Absolutely,
that's true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we've got just under half hour left, and I'm waiting to hear about Uri Geller.
Like I said, we grew up poor, and I'm an old poor boy in San Angelo, Texas, out in West Texas. And we're reading everything we can get on the paranormal. I'm exercising my psychic gift, having all these marvelous experiences and everything. And we get this book, My Story, by Uri Geller. And I'm thinking, wow, look at this. Here's a guy that's got the same gift as I do, but he's getting rich and famous. And here I sit trying to have French fries with my hamburger.
I hope you don't bend spoons and forks and things, do you?
I've been able to do telekinesis, psychokinesis, yes. So, excuse me. We're aware of Uri, and as the years go by, I moved to New York. And I'm with the lady I'm with now. She was a New York native. I moved up there to be with her. And I literally, guys, I don't even remember how it came about. For some reason, Uri Geller and I started corresponding. And we started corresponding both through email and snail mail. And it was not starstruck things. It was specific things we were discussing about the paranormal. And we corresponded a good bit. And he even sent me some things. And at the time, I didn't have any pictures of me out on the internet at all. So he wouldn't have known me from Adam if he saw me. And it came about that there was a notification that he was going to be giving a lecture in Manhattan. I told my wife, I said, oh, my God, we got to go. She'd be like, yeah. So we bought tickets, which were anonymous. You didn't sign up for the tickets. You didn't give your name for the tickets, anything. And so we went. And she said, you say he's real, but is he? And I said, as far as I know, 100% he is. But I said, when we get to this demonstration, if at any time during this thing I can touch him, even for a split second, I'll know everything I need to know. So we go, and we're sitting there waiting for it to start. And I said, I got to go to the restroom. So I get up to go to the restroom. And as I'm going in, who comes out? Uri. I smile at him. He smiles at me. And we say hi to each other. And I reach out and pat him on the back as he goes by. And I got everything I need to know. The guy's 100% genuine. So we watched the demonstration. He bends a spoon, and the way he does it is so far removed from what the skeptics describe. He holds it very lightly down at the very end of the spoon, and he strokes it up by the bowl so slightly, so delicately, that the spoon doesn't even bend down when he's touching it. It doesn't even waver in his grip in his hands, and he's only holding it by 2 fingers. And it starts to bend, and as it starts to bend, he raises his finger up above the spoon and just strokes the air above it, doesn't even touch it, and it continues to bend. Well, what made it even neater was that then everybody in the audience starts jumping up and pulling their spoons out that they've bent and going, look, Uri, look, and they've got all these bent spoons. So it was really great. So at the end of his lecture, we go to get books autographed, and I had bought one of his books, bought it with me to be autographed. And we get up to him in the line, and he smiles. I smile. And he looks up at me, and he stops. He opens the book and stops, and he stares at me, and he goes, we know each other. And I said, yeah. And he said, we this is the first time we've met, but we know each other. And I said, yeah. And he said, we've corresponded both snail mail and email, and not just banal stuff, but very specific things regarding, And I said, yes, we have. And so he absolutely knew. He absolutely was the genuine deal. And he autographed my book. We went on. And then from there, when I wrote my books, everybody tells you, oh, you need a celebrity endorsement. I'm like, how am I going to get a celebrity endorsement? I don't know any celebrities. So I'm writing all these people asking them to endorse my book. And I'm like, who am I going to get? And I'm like, oh, Uri. So I write Uri. And I say, I don't know if you'll remember me. And I explain. And he does. He remembers me. And he writes back. And he gives me this beautiful endorsement for both of my books. And I'm like, oh, my God, who had ever thought that this old poor kid from a West Texas cow town reading about Uri one day would grow up to write his own books and meet Uri and get an endorsement from Uri about his books. So that's my Uri story. And it was just really fascinating, really phenomenal.
Yeah, he's quite a fascinating character.
He is,
really nice
absolutely.
Man. Mm.
And I've tried to pick his brain on what he knows about UFOs that he said he's sworn to secrecy about, and he won't tell me nothing.
And there was something about you don't like secrecy.
I don't like secrecy. We need to have an open and honest discourse. I mean, our governments, all of our governments are so deceptive and so manipulative, and they know what's going on. They can't not know.
Do you think if they know that they're there, that they are out there, do you think they're just trying to protect us?
I don't know.
By not telling us?
I don't know. I wish I did know, but I don't know. I don't know the motivations behind all of this. And I suspect that nobody really does, except those at the very base of it, at the core of it, that know what they're doing and why.
Well, think about it, John. I'm sorry, Mark. Right? If they were to turn around and say, right, okay, there are aliens out there, we're in touch with aliens, a handful of the world's people would go and stand on the nearest mountain and try and make contact.
Sure.
But there'd be so many people trying to commit suicide, or there'd be mass panic.
I don't think there would be, Irene. I really, really don't. I think that so many of us have had UFO experiences or UFO sightings or interactions or believe in UFOs already that I don't think it's going to make that impact. I think if the official disclosure comes, or if they land at the palace or the Kremlin or the White House lawn or whatever, that I think most people's response is going to be, well, finally, we knew it all along. And I don't think there will be a mass disruption of religion. I think people that have believed the way they believe will continue to believe. And the example, that I give of that is that if the aliens land, there's going to be Christians going some
you think that there would be
mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria and violence and things like that.
I think there would be a few people that would be afraid, but I think most people would be like, okay, they would default to their religious upbringing or their spiritual beliefs, and how do we integrate this, or what do we do? People that are in the church are still going to believe in the church. People that are spiritual are still going to believe in their spiritual means, and so on and so forth. And excuse me. Like I told somebody the other day, and being from West Texas, I can say this without prejudice. There will be some good old boys from West Texas that are loading up the guns and going, yeah, let's go get us Vikings, But I think that faction will actually be very small. I think the public fear would be very small. I don't think there would be a mass exodus or change in religious beliefs or religious attitudes. I think most people would adopt the wait and see thing. Okay, here these people are. Who are they? What are they? What are their belief systems? How does it jive with mine? Are they hostile? Are they benevolent? Are they somewhere in between? Is there something we can learn from them? Is there something that they can learn from us? I think there will be that wait and see interaction there. I give us more credit than that. I really do.
What if they would have come down en masse? If they landed in the field at the bottom of my garden, first thing I'm going for is my rolling pin.
Right. Well, the natural assumption for us is to protect ourselves from the unknown, and they are unknown at this point. Their motives are unknown. The whole thing is unknown at this point, and so our natural reaction is to protect ourselves, and I think that's only logical. And but most people, I think, will do that in a somewhat guarded way. I think they'll adopt that, trust but verify, believe in God but lock your doors, that kind of thing. So there may be a lot of people out there with concealed carry permits like myself, with a loaded 9mm, but saying, okay, yeah, I'll talk to these guys. I'll see what they're about, that type of thing.
What were you going to say? I cut you off, Mark.
Well, this is all assuming, the way you're looking at how society would take it. But let's face it, our governments don't trust us. They want to keep control of power, which is why they're never going to have disclosure. We'll never see it. I know Dolan. I know Richard Dolan. Great guy, but he's always been pushing for disclosure. Linda Moulton Howe, all of these people, but they're being naive because if the government does disclosure, and there's been little attempts at it lately. There have been a few things that have been out on the news. They released that Nimitz footage, of the Tic Tac UFO.
The Tic Tac UFO. And the director of national intelligence coming out and saying what he said.
Yeah, but you know what? Do you know what it did with the rest of society? It barely made a blip. Nothing. And that's because of all the years of conditioning and what my friend Bruce used to call the snicker factor. They make fun of all these things on the news. They don't take it seriously. And then every now and then they'll throw out a little bit of truth, and then but then that's it. But the fact is, if the public knew about Roswell for sure, that it actually happened, that they've been flat out lying to us, it would automatically erode trust in our government and our institutions. And they're afraid that the public is going to turn on them and say, well, you've been lying to us about this. What else have you been lying to us about? What other secrets are there? The fact that the government very well may have had contact already and have deals with some of these races. Some of these races that don't mean us, that much good. Even Whitley Strieber has talked about on a couple of abduction cases, military type personnel being present, during his abduction. So if they're that deep in it, they're not going to tell us because they know the public would hang them from the nearest tree.
And I agree with you.
And they also believe that there would be mass panic and anarchy and whatever. Why? Because of fear. They fear that we can't handle it and that they'll lose their control.
Yeah.
I
think that I don't think the fear is that we can't handle it. I think the fear is that we'll be so angry at them that we'll go after them, and I think that's what they're afraid of.
No, it's a combination of both. They think we're stupid. Yeah. They think we're stupid.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. I agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's all I really had to say on that, is just that.
No, I agree with you. I think they're very valid points, and I think that, that's why I tell people, hey, we got to start holding our leaders' feet to the fire, metaphorically speaking, and say, look, it's time for something real to happen here. And we've got to get out of the, I got my paycheck, I bought my six-pack, went home, watched my favorite TV show, I'm okay. We got to get out of that, and we got to get to the point where we're willing to discomfort ourselves, and we've got to start taking these people to task, however that is, and we have to get the people that are in the know to come out and to be brave enough and willing enough to break ranks and do something, like, for example, Snowden. I can't call one way or the other did or did he not do the right thing, but he made us aware of some very egregious things that our government is doing in the name of national security, and maybe it is national security, but he enlightened us to the fact that none of our calls are private anymore, whether they're landline, cell, Skype, or whatever. All of that's out there for the government, and I think that's a valuable thing. And I think that there are more people in the know that need to have the bravery to come out and do. We need more whistleblowers is what we need. And we don't need incidents from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. We don't need more Rendlesham Forest. We don't need more Roswell. We need, hey, what's going on right now? Let's get with it. Let's get out there. Let's get some true disclosure, and let's find out what's really going on. And man, I tell you, Mark, I got to agree with you. I think our government wants to keep that locked down, keep us locked down. And I think these latest things are just the carrots on the stick to keep us going. And, they've got to know. They absolutely have to know. And I agree with you that their reason, their motivation for not bringing full disclosure is they want that control. They want that domination over us. I agree with that. And I think one of the ways that we can fight that is spiritually. We may not be able to do it financially. We may not be able to do it physically or even politically. But if we band together and utilize spiritual power in the same way that we can affect things with telekinesis, so on and so forth, if we start banding together and using that, I think we may be able to force disclosure spiritually.
Well, one of the problems that we're dealing with, and again, I'm not going to get political, just stating my observations, we, especially our country, but this is, it's happening around the world, but the U.S. especially, what our government and what our media and everybody is doing is dividing everyone so badly. Now there's just so much hate and fear and finger pointing.
Exactly.
We can't come together on anything. And
that's what makes it difficult to unite people. You're exactly right, Mark, because that's the process now, is to divide everybody by whatever means possible. And they know if we're divided, they know if we believe all these different things, that we're not going to come together and unify and use that power against them, which we could. So that's the thing also that we're combating, that we have to work with and work against. And I agree with you 100% on that. You're 100% right there.
It's the old saying, divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, and we have never been more divided in our lives. And I don't care which side of the spectrum you fall on, it's still, if we look at like what happened shortly after 9/11, that was probably the most unified we've ever been. And then from there, it's been chipped away until now we're the most divided we've ever been. And
exactly right.
And it's continuing to get worse. And it's like, I sit back and I'm looking like, how in the hell are we going to fix this? To get people to try to come back together and find that common ground. I mean, on a spiritual level, yeah, I agree. That's going to be the only way it's the only fix. It's trying to get through people's fear. Right now, everything is so fear-based.
That's it. Everything is so fear-based now, and everything's so out of whack, and definitions are so bizarre and crazy, and people coming up with new ways to describe things every day and invent new things, and everybody runs to, okay, that's me, I'm against you, you're not me, and you're right, we're so divided, and we have all these things that just increase and grow, and the government fosters that. You're exactly right. And I think that what we have to do, and it's going to be so difficult, I believe we can do it, but it's going to be so difficult. We have to find some way to come together at the spiritual level and attack it there, because we're not going to attack it physically. We protested, we did sit-ins, we did this, we did that. It had no effect. We're not going to attack it monetarily, because the billionaires control all of that, so we can't make a dent there. We're not going to attack it politically, because we've seen that things can be lied, cheated, stolen, whatever, and on and on and on. And by both sides, by both sides of the parties. But what we can do is, if we can come together spiritually and throw out all the dogma, all the religion, all the tradition, but get down to pure brass tacks spiritually and come together and say, okay, we're going to unite our power that way. You know, the old bumper sticker, remember the old bumper sticker, visualize world peace, which obviously didn't do a heck of a lot, but the concept is sound if you extrapolate it into something that really works, something that's really achievable physically through spiritual means. And I believe with all my heart that we can do that. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort. We're going to have a lot of resistance, political, spiritual, religious, and otherwise, on the way. But I still have a little bit of hope left for us. I believe it can be done.
Well, I certainly hope so. I think we got a long road ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
Well, we are coming up towards the end of the show. I know we said we'd take a break halfway through, but I think we all got to talking so much that it just kind of...
okay. We had a blast, man. This has been great.
Well, that's we aim to please. We this is why we like this format. So, but we want to definitely plug your book, which is your newest book, A Knock in the Attic: True Ghost Stories and Other Spine-Chilling Paranormal Adventures.
Right. You can get that in the UK, by the way, at Amazon UK. That's available. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and then on my website for the book, which is aknockintheattic.net. There's mom and pop stores you can shop at as well if you don't like the big ones and so on and so forth. So that's available online. Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead is available. You can go to writingwithghosts.net. That's available there. And then if you want to know more about me, get a psychic reading, or just find out more about me, schedule a psychic reading with me, go to johnrussell.net. And for people overseas, we can Skype readings and that type of thing. So
fantastic.
There you go. He's done the job for us, Mark.
Yes, he has.
Very good, John.
Normally we'd say, hey, John, how could people get in touch with you? Well, you just solved that right there.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a blast tonight and very informative.
Guys, you both are absolutely great. Mark, Irene, you both are just treasures. You're both great. You're both super honest people and great people. And just from talking to you, I respect...
You're a bit of a sweetie, too.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. Just from talking to you, I can tell you're legitimate, you're honest, you're real, and that you're working for the greater good. And that's what we're all trying to do. And it's just been a pleasure and an honor to be here. It really has.
Well, thank you. It's been fun having you on, too.
Thank you.
And want to thank our listeners for tuning in to another edition of the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. And Station. Network station. Pick one. All right, so...
We're station status now, so station.
Yes. Well, we will be back... what's that? Upscale, yeah. We're going up in the world here.
There you go.
All right, well, we will be back next week. So everyone have a great week, and we will talk to you then. Irene, you have a great evening.
Okay. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.